Hello everybody and welcome back to the review vlog for Breaking Bad Season 2. This will be rather short, as I have not that much to say about this season just in general. Now, that's not to say that it's a bad season, because I absolutely loved this season. It was basically just an improvement in every sense from the first. That's not to say that the first season was bad, quite au contraire, but rather that the second season just showed very heavy improvements on basically all of the great things of the first season. Now, although it had also some of the bad things rather accentuated, such as some of the contrivances and some of the asspulls with them, or rather, shall we say, unfortunate coincidences with the story, and certainly there has to be some suspension of disbelief to be, well, for effective drama to be created. But those things aside, that's always a case with shows, so you can't really fault a show for having fortunate coincidences. And if it creates effective drama, I feel like it is the necessary evil that has to be done for it. Now, I love that this season, more than anything, focused on Walter's transformation, or more, I wouldn't say character growth, because growth is a misleading term. Let's say development. Not advancement. Change in his character, because this season more very heavily focused on the fact that Walter is slowly but surely he's trying to replace the real life that he had with Sky and well, let's call him Finn now. Flynn, whatever. Let's call it the real life. This season mostly focused on him wanting to change that life, well, into the life with Jesse, the life of criminal activities, the life of cooking and, well, excitement, thrills, and criminal activities, just in general. Considering that his health is now basically pretty much fine. I mean, the doctors were not exactly sure whether his cancer was completely cured or not. But that's always with cancer, it's never certain whether it's not or not. But mostly that he still has a lot more years to go. Most likely. Hopefully. Whatever. I'm actually kind of happy that they didn't even dilly-dally with that, and they just immediately got on with it, and they actually really effectively dealt with that issue really, really quickly. However, this season also has one of the interesting faults to it, which is it's not a conclusive season. It's not a season that has an ending point, but rather it certainly has a climax in the final episode, but it's not a climax that a normal show should have. Shall we say, it's more of a middle point of the story. Now, if this second season was a book, it would be a horrible book unless it was a part of series, because it has a very, shall we say, it has a story. It begins at a very middle of the story, and it ends at the middle of the story. It is a filler season that has a huge story to it, and definitely it has a story to it which is entertaining and interesting and peculiar to follow. It is definitely a good season, but it isn't a self-contained season. It's not something that should be. It's not something that is self-contained and could be enjoyed just as a huge chunk on its own. That is not a fault. That is a style of storytelling, however. Or at least I feel like that's the way in this situation. So, well, while the first season was something that could be very easily followed on, like that's a season that you could just enjoy as one package and just end off with that, even if it had a rather peculiar ending. This season is something where you have to watch the first season and you have to continue on to the next season to be satisfied completely. Mostly because the ending and beginning are so open-ended, and they require a lot more story to be filled out with them. But the season had a lot of really, really, really darn good events, mostly with not only some character development of the side characters, some new introduced, some of them killed off, but that's besides the point. But also very effective drama created all around, and with the web of lies being both extended and expanded upon heavily, however also torn down in certain segments, such as in the ending with Skylar. I very much like that they have also gone for a more camera. They have focused the camera work on far more abstract visuals and far more of the, shall we say, cinematic camera techniques that they accentuate the absurdity, and they do have the camera work became far more abstract, and it became far more dreamlike, should I say, a lot less unrealistic, but more drama accentuating. And that's a pretty good way to accentuate the drama without doing a lot of ass pulling, but rather just using clever directing. That's not to say that the first season didn't have that, but this season had a lot heavier focus on that. And that is again a thing I love about it. Like, it's a clever way to do it, even if it is a bit odd way to do it, and definitely a thing that can usually only be accomplished in a visual medium like this. That's also to say that they take full advantage of the fact that this is a audio-visual medium, since they do have an amazing audio track as well going on with it. Now, that's mostly to say that the audio directing is usually rather good, as majority of the songs are not actually to my liking, but they do fit the scene, so I'm not complaining about them. I suppose we could also mention quickly that the introduction of Gus makes this quite something else. It kind of brings in it actually just completely brings in another aspect which has not yet been introduced in the show, but creates for a numerous amount of opportunities that were not foreseen before this season. And though his introduction may have been not exactly the most sudden, and definitely not the easiest, but he still did appear basically with only 2 episodes of introduction. It still was more than enough, and Walter had to actually do a pretty, shall we say, uncompromising guess to succeed at making the deal. But it created for a lot more effective drama, and it all ended out well. What I'm saying is, Gus's introduction could be seen as a bit of an ass pull, but it definitely was not so. Yeah, there are a lot of ways the season. Again, this season has the similar kind of ending that the previous one had, however, less conclusivity to it. And in that way, it's pretty good because it also gives us more than the previous season's ending. This season has an ending which lets us a lot. It leaves a lot more open, and there are a lot more avenues that could be explored here. And though there are basically just 2 main roads that Walter can take, and those are trying to make up with his family and go on full-on criminal. There are more shades than that, But it is a good season. It definitely is a good season, and they really amped up the drama here, and they really made it far more explicit and far more well, they really racked it up the tension to the extreme. But they also kept up a bit of a better pacing, in my opinion, than in the first season. And that's, again a bit of a better, but the first season also had a good pacing. It's hard to talk positive about this season without talking down on the first season. But yeah, the show had a pretty amazing directing all around again. So I really don't have that much to complain about in this season. Maybe some drama could feel forced, I suppose, and some of the situations are rather unbelievable. And a lot of the situations are something like, naturally, if you want to complain, you can complain that some of the situations feel a bit forced and seem a bit... Let's just say that this is a common occurrence in most shows, that you could just figure out better ways to get out of these situations, but for the sake of drama and to continue the show, those are necessary things that must be done. And that's why I don't complain about those, so without further ado, that's all I have to say. So I thank you all very much for watching, I'll see you in the future, have a great day and stay awesome, Gunmoo out. And I'll see you in the Season 3, I hope. Thank you.